So, let's talk about one of the most influential books in the world, the Bible. But we're going to look at it through a really strange lens, a famous psychology experiment that has a gorilla in it. I know, it sounds weird, but trust me, this journey is going to challenge how you think about reading, attention, and all the hidden things and stories you thought you knew inside and out. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll imagine the Bible as this huge, incredible cathedral. Then we'll get a little brave and explore some of its darker, forgotten corners. After that, we'll bring in the invisible gorilla to understand why we miss so much. That will give us a new way of seeing, and finally, we'll revisit that cathedral with brand new eyes. So, first things first, let's start with this really powerful idea. Instead of thinking of the Bible as just one book, I want you to picture it as a grand, ancient cathedral. One that's been built and added to over hundreds and hundreds of years. And check this out. The source we're looking at uses a perfect example, Stavanger Cathedral in Norway. This place wasn't built in a weekend. It's a mashup of different styles from different centuries, all standing together as one building. And that is our central metaphor for the Bible. I mean, just look at this. You've got the heavy, solid, grounding Romanesque style from way back in the 1100s, literally right next to the elegant, soaring Gothic style from the 1200s. They have totally different vibes, different goals, right? Yet somehow they coexist in the same space. That's exactly like the different voices and styles you find in the Bible. And that's really the key takeaway here, right? We're not reading a single, neat little instruction manual. We're walking through a library. A whole collection of history, poetry, laws, and letters written over 1,000 years. The ideas and stories in it actually grow and change over time. But, like any cathedral that's been around for 900 years, this library has some dark corners. Some really unsettling passages that are confusing, maybe morally troubling, and, let's be honest, often totally ignored by most visitors. The source points out some of the usual suspects that trip people up. For instance, you have the book of Joshua, which describes this brutal holy war and the complete annihilation of Jericho. It's a really tough story to sit with. Or how about the absolutely gut-wrenching story of a guy named Jephthah? He makes this impulsive vow to God. And the price he has to pay is the life of his own daughter. I mean, wow. It's a passage that just throws our modern ideas about faith and morality for a loop. And here's the big one, right? The one you hear all the time. This seeming personality switch of God between the Testaments. How does the God of wrath in one story become the God of mercy in another? It's a massive contradiction that a lot of people really struggle with. So all of this leads to a really interesting question. These parts of the Bible aren't hidden in some secret chapter. They've been right there in plain sight for thousands of years. So how is it that so many of us have managed to just not see them, or at least not really wrestle with them? Okay, to figure this out, we're actually going to step away from the text for a second and dive into the world of psychology. Because it turns out there's a famous experiment that gives us an incredible key to understanding why we don't see things that are right in front of our faces. It all comes down to this thing called selective attention. You might have also heard it called inattentional blindness. Basically, our brains are wired to focus. And when we concentrate really hard on one thing, we literally filter everything else out, even if that everything else is totally wild and unexpected. So here's how the experiment went down. People were told to watch a video and count how many times a team in white shirts passed a basketball. Super simple task. But while they're busy counting, a person in a full-on gorilla suit walks right into the middle of the game, thumps their chest, and walks off. And the shocking part? Half the people watching didn't see the gorilla at all. Their brain just edited it out. And this is the big aha moment. The source argues this is exactly what happens when we read the Bible. If we go into it looking for inspiration, for comfort, for life lessons, that's our task. Our brain focuses so hard on finding those things that we become completely blind to the gorillas in the text, all the violent, contradictory, and deeply weird parts that just don't fit the assignment. Okay, so what happens if we change our task? What if, instead of ignoring the weird stuff, we actively start looking for the gorillas? What happens when we look for the things that don't quite fit? Well, the whole text can just crack wide open in a fascinating new way. All right, let's look at maybe the most famous example of this, right from page 1. And this might actually blow your mind a little. Most people think the Bible starts with the creation story, but it doesn't. It starts with two of them, two completely different creation stories placed right back to back. And when you put them side by side like this, it's pretty wild. In the first story, from Genesis 1, everything is cosmic and poetic, and humans are created lost as the grand finale. But in the second story, from Genesis 2, it's much more earthy and personal, and man is created first before the plants and animals. The order of events is totally different. And this is so important. Seeing this gorilla, seeing these two conflicting stories, doesn't mean you found a mistake or a typo. It means you've spotted a deliberate choice by the ancient editors. They intentionally put these two different perspectives together to give us a richer, more complex picture of creation. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Okay, let's tie all of this together. Let's walk back into that metaphorical cathedral of ours, but this time with totally new eyes, ready to appreciate the whole thing on a much deeper level. So let's just recap the big ideas here. The Bible isn't a simple instruction manual. It's a huge, complex library. Our own brains, through selective attention, can actually make us blind to its most difficult and contradictory parts, the gorillas. But finding those gorillas isn't about pointing out flaws. It's an invitation to a deeper, more honest understanding. To really appreciate the cathedral, you have to see all of it, the soaring spires, the beautiful stained glass, and the dark, dusty corners. And that's really the big takeaway, isn't it? This idea doesn't just apply to ancient texts. This kind of inattentional blindness happens to us every single day. So the real question to leave you with is this. What contradictions, what uncomfortable truths, what invisible gorillas might you be overlooking in the familiar stories you tell yourself about your own life, your work, and your world? What's standing right in front of you that you just don't see?